Hey beautiful people, Robert Murphy from Holistic Healing Choices here. Now today, had another special event happen with us. We actually got the chance to go to Uluru, Ayers Rock, as some may call it. For those that don't actually know what that is, it is a gigantic rock, more or less in the middle of Australia. So, what significance does it actually hold? Well, let's find out. So, Uluru is one of Australia's biggest landmarks. Now, I'm not saying that on the surface as well, because apparently it goes 5 kilometres deeper than surface level as well, making it one of the biggest monoliths. Now, to put this into perspective as to why it's so special, it is about 300 metres taller than the Eiffel Tower, I believe it is. And then, not far from that too, is Kata Tjuta, which is taller than it. So it is taller than any building, I think he said, in Australia, any skyscraper that we have, and there's a lot going on. It is a huge landmark, and then you have the cultural aspect behind it as well. So it is traditionally a gigantic meeting place for the Anangu indigenous people of that area. They would always go there, hunt. There's always like a waterway there as well, so animals would be drawn to it. And same thing with Kata Tjuta, in that it was a sacred men's area, where sacred men's business was carried out. After the rains and everything else as well, it would flood out and animals would gather there, so they would hunt those animals to survive. It's awe-inspiring to actually be at, look at, and there's old paintings and around the base of it where the people used to huddle in the caves, do their little business and their ceremonies and everything else as well, or just get out of the weather from there as well. And it's such an awe-inspiring thing to be in the middle of Australia where there's nothing else. The landscape there is so vast, spacious, big, as well as such a clear blue sky, not taken up by anything else as well, where you've always got Uluru, and then you can always look over and see Kata Tjuta as well. Now, if you're looking at going there, well worth your time. If I could do it a little bit differently, we would have had a day where we hired a car and went out to Uluru and did our own little thing, and then off to Kata Tjuta to do our own little thing there as well. Doing some of the tours and the sounds of silence dinner, I would recommend that. If you're into that, you get up there, there's a little bit of beer and canapes, and you're there watching the sunset on this magnificent scenery. Then you led down to your table where the sun finally descends. Before you start your dinner, have your little buffet, and they've got everything that you could possibly think of there as well. Fish, beef, pork, kangaroo, crocodile, you name it, it's probably in that buffet. So the food is top notch, and then you get a bit of a star talk. So you get, depending on season and time that you're there, the Southern Cross pointed out to you how the Anangu used to track using the Milky Way, and a whole bunch of interesting stuff there with the star talk as well. For a limited time, the Field of Lights, which represents all the different colours of the bush. And then there's a little path that you can wander on through with these all LED coloured lights that come on as the sun starts to descend. So sunrise and sunset are very magical times around this area, and they take full advantage of that for the touristy way as well. Getting to Yulara, which is more or less like a little town built for tourists. So out the back, you've got all your accommodation for all your staff members for the 4 various hotels or campgrounds that you'll see around the place. There's a gigantic lookout in the middle, and I think off to the side too, there's actually a place for the traditional people there and any other people who live there full time, because there is a police station, a little ambulance hospital, as well as a fire station there as well. You're not isolated, even though absolutely you are isolated from a lot. So you fly into this little tiny airport, and then about 7 minutes on a bus, you're in Yulara at a resort. And it's got a little IGA and a few little cafes and stuff to eat at as well as plenty of souvenir shops, showcasing some of the local art, as well as the gallery. So there's a lot to do around Yulara itself, whether it be one of the talks on the didgeridoo, or the bush foods, or dot painting, there's a lot. Or just enjoy the silence of the whole area. So we stayed at Sails in the desert, which is a bigger sort of chain, a more luxurious type of resort, because why not? And we were so surprised with how quiet it is. It's the most peaceful place I think I've ever been, at least for a very long time. You know, there's no wind noise because there's hardly ever any wind. So the sand dunes there will stay there for years and years and years because there's no actual wind to take them anywhere. There's no real trees or vegetation as well. Around the resort, yeah, there's a lot of ghost gums. Actually, on the landscape itself, there's just a lot of shrubbery. It's an amazingly quiet place. And I was very, very happy for that because it actually gave us some time to just decompress, de-stress, and just sit and be. Then onto the food side at Yulara itself. You are going to pay a fair bit, but it is very, very good quality. There wasn't any type of meal, whether it be a bacon and egg wrap, right up to the whole buffet at Sales, that let me down. It was all as you'd expect. Sure, pricey, you know, you're paying $6 for a cup of coffee, but all the food was delicious and yeah, I'll come back with a few extra kilos. Worth it. So very much worth your while. So if you're worried about the food or what you got to take or whatever else there as well, don't. And it's not specific to where you stay. So you can go to any of these places, even if you're at the campground or whatever, and eat there. And yeah, you're just welcomed in. And then the people who work there as well, a lot of it is done slowly. So if you're always in a rush or someone who's always going, like I do myself, you're going to be a little bit frustrated probably to start with at the slower pace that people go and do things in, and people will, just mosey on about and everything else as well, because it is a holiday. It is a holiday destination for a lot of people. So take that opportunity to slow and enjoy the peace and the quiet and plenty of wildlife, birds specifically, the old galahs getting around, and they are not scared of you. It's amazing how close you can get up to them, and bunnies and everything else in the early hours in the morning before it gets too hot. And we were there, unfortunately or fortunately, at one time when it rained. So, you know, there's not a lot you can do when it rains if you don't have your own transport. So we just sat around the hotel room. And as the rain came in, the television reception went out. So it was very, very interesting to see that still there's stuff like that in Australia. No matter how, very much so, if something like that happens, there's always a quick fix or everybody's onto it or whatever else as well. So we were TV-less, which I don't mind because I don't watch a lot of it, and a lot of it was Olympics style stuff as well, being there at that time. But also too, the whole place is covered by Wi-Fi, so all around the resorts you're always got Wi-Fi. There's no need to worry about being disconnected from the rest of the world or not being able to upload your little happy snaps, because you're always sort of connected wherever you are on the actual resort grounds. The big, and then there's camel rides as well as a helicopter ride that we were fortunate enough to take, where we learned a lot of the amazing facts from the helicopter pilot, as well as being able to see these things from an angle that a lot of people wouldn't get to see. So that is something that, you know, if that interests you, absolutely go for. And that's weather depending as well. In short too, I think we are going to go back and we are going to get the car, drive around, stop where we want to stop, have a bit of a look and do it in a much more interesting way. My wife's currently still away, journeying up with some friends. She's going to Kings Canyon and then all the way up to Darwin. So yeah, she's got her own little adventure, and one day we may even do that as well. But that's a little bit about Uluru and the special times that we had there, and just how the peace, the quiet, and the good food allows you to have that total reset. Before you know, you come back into Sydney and back into Orange and then back into work the very next day, and it starts all over again. But we absolutely loved our time there. Not sponsored, not anything, whatever else. This is completely our experience with it. I highly recommend it for anybody who comes over to Australia. See this massive, iconic landmark that's just takes your breath away with how it is. This gigantic sandstone monument in there. And being sandstones too, there are little bits and pieces that do crumble away every so often. but because it rains so seldomly there, it's going to be around forever. But anyway guys, have you been to Uluru? Would you go to Uluru? What's your interest there? And what do you think I didn't cover in this video? Leave a comment down below. And as always guys, remember to like, share, comment and subscribe on this video. And I'm Rob Murphy, and I'll see you in the next video.